Hi, good morning, everybody. I wanted to start this morning by telling you all thank you very much, Chairman and committee members, for giving me the opportunity to come today and tell you a little bit about my son, Ryan Julie Zicha. Here really mainly speaking on his behalf, as he is unable to do it here today himself. My son Ryan passed away in 2011 at the age of 19 in Pocatello, Idaho. He was gay, and he was a wonderful kid. He was very civically minded. He wanted more than anything to find a way as a young man growing up to give back to his community and his country. He spent 9 years in the Boy Scouts of America and really bought into what they teach young scouts, as far as being engaged in your community and country and giving back. Ryan was a live scout when he left the organization. As a young gay man, he had reached a point in time where he was quietly presented with the opportunity to either continue with the Scouts to get his eagle, or to, and in doing so, hiding who he was, or he could be true to himself and not hide who he was and leave, which was really what he ended up doing. Ryan was somewhat unstereotypical young gay man in, what a lot of people believe gay young men to be. He, outside of the Scouts, he also hiked, he hunted, he backpacked, he fished. He was a precision rifle shooter. When he was 14 years old, my husband and I let him take a 30-day backpacking trip with family friends to hike in the Sisters Mountains in Oregon, and he actually was able to get to the top of the mountain range. And we never once, my husband and I never once considered worrying about him, because he was such a confident, capable, self-reliant young man at that time in his life. Excuse me. At age 15, though, my husband and I and my son moved from Spokane, Washington, where he'd spent his whole life, to Pocatello for my husband's work. And within days of starting school in Pocatello, the harassment started for Ryan. First it was things like name calling, and then it got progressively worse. There were, pushing and shovings in the hallways, and one night he went to a party with some friends, and as a 15-year-old, well, probably 16 by then, young man, and he was literally dragged out of the party by a group of some of the more popular kids who had a problem with the fact that Ryan was openly gay, and they drug him out into the snow and beat him up so badly, punched him in the stomach so hard that he was vomiting, and then left him there. There is a lot of that kind of thing, especially in schools, and you hear about it a lot right now as far as bullying goes. But the thing that was really interesting was that as my son, he barely made it through the 10th grade that year, my straight A student who I brought to Pocatello, the capable, confident, straight A young student, almost failed the rest of the 10th grade because it was so awful for him there. And we, as a family, made a decision to send him back home to Spokane to live with his grandparents because of his treatment at his high school in Pokey. At age 18, though, Ryan started to have some health issues, and we brought him back to Pocatello and told him that he could come to stay with us for a little while he got back on his feet. And we kind of thought, he's an adult now, so that type of treatment, that ends in high school, right? And I'll be dealing with the community there as an adult, and I won't have to deal with these things. But what we found, though, was that the treatment really wasn't very much different as a young adult for him. The bullying that he faced in the community, though, was just a little more silent than what he faced in high school. He would be, he'd go to try to get an apartment and have the landlord show up and realize that my son was gay with his partner there. And all of a sudden that apartment was rented. And where he had a job that he ended up losing after many, many issues with his employers there, because he lost because he was gay. Really long story short, that young man that I took to Pocatello that was so strong and confident and capable, within 4 years time was systematically torn apart, shredded little bits by bits. He lost all of that. He lost his confidence. He began to fight depression. January 14th in 2011, I was here in Boise with my husband on a business trip. And we got a text message one night leaving a fly fishing expo where we were working. At the same time, our phones both went off. And we received a message from my son that said, please forgive me. Please remember always that this is not your fault. That I love you, and that I've always loved you, and that I'm up at Pebble Creek. And there was no doubt about it. We both knew right away that this was a goodbye message. I tried as best that we could to spring into action. I was calling my son on one phone, and my husband was calling the deputies there in Bannock County, trying to get a welfare check, at Pebble Creek Ski Resort, where he had Ryan had taken a firearm from our home and drove from our place up in Pocatello to the ski resort. It was dark, knee-deep snow, literally. He climbed the side of this mountain as far as he could go, as high as he could go, with almost no winter protection, just in a little pair of boots and a hoodie. And when he got to the end of the trail and there was no further trail to go, he sat down and he sent us a note, and then he took his life. He had to have been so determined that day to even get there, is what just amazes me, that somebody had been pushed that far. I didn't even know how he got his truck up the hill. It was 7 miles straight up in a two-wheel vehicle. He just had to have been so determined to get there, to get away from it all. Because of my son, I founded a nonprofit organization, and I work with a lot of other at-risk gay kids. And I hear a lot from them that one of the reasons that they reach that point in time is that they feel no hope. They see no hope of a brighter future for themselves, that they will be not considered a second-class citizen, that they will be able to do all of the things that we are able to do, you and I, our civil rights that we probably take for granted every single day. These kids are really smart. They're really plugged into the environment around them, and they look around them and they see that, that the things that are affected, that there isn't going to be a change. And I guess I just wanted to let you know that I'm here today in support of House Bill 2. I think it's really important. It's a very important first step for these kids, to give them some hope of a brighter tomorrow, that they'll have the opportunity to work, to find a home, to love a partner, to raise a family, or whatever it is that they want to do, but to contribute to Idaho, to to their community in the same way that everybody else has or is allowed to. But thank you today for your time.
Are there questions? Representative Jordan.
Mr. Chairman, more of a comment. I would like to thank...
questions now. There'll be time for debate later, Representative.
Okay, I just have a comment.
Best that if you have a question for that person that's testifying, that we hear that now. You'll have time for comments later.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any further questions? Hearing none, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Representative McCrosty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Zicha, first of all, I want to thank you for sharing your story with us and the story of your son. It is certainly, to say the least, heartbreaking, and my condolences for your loss. I'd like to ask you, if Ryan were here today, do you believe that he would be a civic-minded, tax-paying citizen in our state?
Absolutely. Yep, he was incredibly civically minded his whole life. I mean, as a very young child, he used to be very engaged in the world around him, and sometimes even the world farther than that, paying attention to things in countries, halfway around the world. So yes, I believe he would very much so be a civically minded young man working and contributing to the state of Idaho.
Thank you.
Further questions? Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you.